In today's video, I will be reviewing the new McLaren GT3 steering wheel from Fanatec. Welcome to Boonatix, the channel for sim racing beginners and enthusiasts alike. If you enjoyed the video and haven't done so far, please consider subscribing to the channel and ringing the sub notification bell so that you won't miss any of my other upcoming videos and entertaining live streams. So just one short disclaimer before we get started with my review. I am not affiliated with Fanatec and not supported. This video is not sponsored. I bought this steering wheel for myself, from my own money, because as soon as they presented it and I saw the price tag and actually all the features, I just basically bought it without overthinking it. It was like more an impulse by me because I was looking into getting a second steering wheel after just using the Formula Esports wheel from Fanatec. And yeah, I just have been using it since the point it came out right before Christmas. And I enjoy it so far. So let me just give you my thoughts and my impressions and also tell you about what you need to know when, getting the wheel, setting it up, installing it for the first time, and, some tips and tricks you should be aware of. So to just introduce what I've been using so far is equipment just solely from Fanatec. I have been using the CSL Elite Wheelbase Plus since around about 7 months right now. And the first and only racing wheel I got was the ClubSport steering wheel F1 Esports. So the standard version, which is not available any longer. The ClubSport steering wheel is a really nice steering wheel to get into sim racing and GT racing actually with ACC, and it's really nice. It feels really good. It has the Alcantara grips here, and it has, including the shifter pedals, I think, and the 2 joysticks here, 15 buttons in total. A really nice display with the LEDs on top. And the first time I actually unpacked the McLaren GT3 steering wheel and got it in my hands, the difference already was in size and, interestingly enough, in the weight. The McLaren GT3 V2 steering wheel is actually 2 centimeters wider in comparison to my ClubSport F1 steering wheel, and as you can see, it's also thicker. And when I kind of noticed this, I thought the McLaren GT3 steering wheel should be heavier, but it is actually not. Actually, the ClubSport steering wheel is heavier, and you immediately feel that once you take it in the hand. Now, of course, I had to make sure that my feeling was right, so I put them on my little scale in the kitchen. And for sure, the McLaren GT3 steering wheel clocks in at around about 1092 grams, but the ClubSport steering wheel clocks in at about 1180 grams. So it is actually 90 grams heavier than the new and bigger McLaren GT3 racing wheel. The new McLaren GT3 steering wheel has in total 14 buttons that you can push, plus the 2 magnetic shifter pedals, as well as the new multi-purpose pedal system at the rear that you can actually map with 3 different settings. And the cool thing about this pedal system is actually that it supports and makes it absolutely easy for people with, for example, disabilities to keep sim racing and use this new multi-purpose pedal system, for example, not only as a clutch but also as brake and throttle. Now, the big difference to the ClubSport F1 Esports wheel is not only the additional multi-purpose pedal system, but also that you have 3 knobs at the front, where 1 knob actually controls what you can do with the multi-purpose pedal system, and the 2 other knobs for decreasing or increasing your traction control or your ABS settings. Now, another notable difference is actually that you have 1 big button on the left and 1 big button on the right. One that can be used for short shifting into neutral, and the other one can be used for your pit limiter. And these 2 buttons are really hard to push. So that's actually, I think, really cool, because you can remap both buttons for, I don't know, something important. But actually, I use one as my ignition and one as my pit limiter, because this way you can make sure that you don't press it by accident. Now, the only thing that the GT3 McLaren steering wheel is actually missing is the LEDs on top that the ClubSport F1 wheel has. So you do not see any RPMs on the steering wheel, but you have a nice and clean display where you can see your speed as well as the menu settings. The grips of the McLaren GT3 wheel are laid over with some form of rubber. Now, that's actually, I think, really comfortable if you are driving without any gloves. But nevertheless, I would recommend you always to drive with gloves, for example, if you're sweating, but also to not, like, you know, if you're playing hundreds of hours, to kind of like, I don't want to say damage, but kind of, you know, you make the steering wheel look used too much. So if you're looking for gloves, I'm using some from Sparco. You can find an affiliate link to Amazon in the description below. Now, of course, that's completely different. I have to say, honestly, I prefer the Alcantara grip from the ClubSport Racing steering wheel because, you know, I don't know, it just feels kind of more premium and cooler. But I think this is just one of the differences that makes the price point of the McLaren GT3 steering wheel. And nevertheless, it still feels good. It gives you a good grip and doesn't really count as a negative point for the steering wheel. Now, the McLaren GT3 wheel is sporting a new quick release system which is made out of plastic with a screw mounting, and this is actually really cool since you don't need any additional springs or screws or anything. You just push it onto your wheelbase and screw it tight until you reach the white line. Now, just an important tip here, I really had some issues to push it onto the aluminium mounting part of my CSL Elite wheelbase because yeah, it's made out of aluminium and the new quick release on the steering wheel is plastic. So it was really a bit of a struggle, and one easy way to just fix that is you use the lithium grease that is included, I think, with like the pedal sets from Fanatec or with the brake pedal kit. But feel free to use, you know, other stuff like, for example, meshing oil or some meshing grease. Just make sure it's not aggressive towards the plastic material of the steering wheel quick release. And then you just, you know, apply a little bit onto the aluminium quick release part of your CSL Elite wheelbase, and then just gently push the steering wheel onto the wheelbase and screw it tight. Now, the cool thing is that in the package of the steering wheel, you already get button label placements. So you can put stickers on as well as the new button caps. So you can all put them across the buttons as you like and put stickers on. Now, I actually want to get into like, what's the biggest difference to like the ClubSport steering wheel, and how does it feel, and what were the things that I immediately noticed? So the first challenge for me was actually getting used to the new and kind of bigger magnetic shifters and the overall bigger feeling of the steering wheel. And this is actually a huge plus point, because the ClubSport F1 eSport steering wheel is like actually sized according to Formula 1 regulations. And it is, it's a cool steering wheel, but it's kind of a tiny bit too small, especially if you have like bigger hands. And also for GT racing, it was kind of an interesting step up using the McLaren GT3 wheel. Now, you might think, why? What's the difference? And it's really hard to put into words, but having a bigger steering wheel that's a bit bigger in diameter just gives you more room for feeling of the car and the steering inputs and, you know, the steering angle. And actually for me, made it easier to kind of control my GT3 or GT4 car in Assetto Corsa Competizione and to kind of catch it when it was starting to lose control. But I have to be honest, I was struggling a little bit with the size of the steering wheel, because the shifters are placed a little bit more far away than in comparison, for example, with the ClubSport steering wheel, where it's, you know, really close to my fingers. And actually with the McLaren steering wheel, it is quite the opposite. Now, during the racing in the beginning, I had like actually really difficulties to kind of reach the shifter pedals. And because like this is a connected pedal set, it's always when you push right, the left pedal, you know, moves in the other direction. So this was something I really had to get used to. And I loved the overall grip of the steering wheel, and what really made the biggest difference for me is actually that I have the 3 knobs turning around. Actually, I'm just using 2 knobs for traction control and ABS. And here's just something important to know, that you always should, when you leave the pits in the setup of your car, make sure that your knobs for traction control and ABS are set in the same stage that you put in the electronic settings. So when you have TC1 or TC2 and ABS 3, just turn your knobs there before you click drive and leave the pits, because then the setting is all correct. If not, it can be like, you know, it maybe confuses you or messes up the settings. But yeah, that's just one of the tips that I learned when using the steering wheel. Now, the overall quality and feel of the steering wheel is incredible, and I'm still surprised that it's actually just clocking in at €199, and that's really a surprising price point for me, considering the size, the amount of features, and the feeling, and the additional cool pedal set. That's really, I think, one of the most notable and interesting features. Now, before you start using the McLaren GT3 steering wheel, and before, you know, installing it and setting it up, make sure you update the drivers of your wheelbase if you haven't done so far. And the best way is actually to use the Fanatec forum for the latest beta drivers. And currently, at the time of this video, the latest driver is the release candidate driver 381. I include the link in the description below for you. And I have been using this driver now since I got the steering wheel in December 2020, and it's awesome. There are no bugs and no problems with my CSL Elite wheelbase. So definitely do this. Update the drivers of your wheelbase. It also includes a driver package for the McLaren GT3 wheel as well. But please remember, when you are using the CSL Elite Wheelbase Plus, which is the standard wheelbase, the cheapest one from Fanatec, it does not save your settings of force feedback and everything you have. So make sure that you kind of write down all, you know, the force feedback sensitivity and everything that you have in the tuning menu, just so that you can easily set it up with the new McLaren steering wheel. Because what the driver does is it just resets everything back to factory settings. And what will happen is that you actually need to again make the calibration for the center position and then put in your tuning menu settings for sensitivity, force feedback dampening, and all the other stuff. So that's really the most important thing you should know before you update your drivers. So the only thing you need to set in addition when putting in your tuning menu settings before you enter Assetto Corsa Competizione and use the steering wheel and the 2 notches for TC and ABS is you again go into your tuning menu and then once to the left to MPS function, and then you push down and make sure the steering wheel is set into the CONST mode. That just enables the 2 notches there to be used with the preset in Assetto Corsa Competizione, so that you can use TCS and ABS settings. And just once this is set, get out of the tuning menu. So the third knob in the middle is for adjusting the presets of the multifunctional pedal set that are on the rear side of the McLaren GT3 steering wheel. So the first setting is actually for the clutch bite point. The second setting is to use them as clutch and handbrake. The third setting is for the brake and throttle preset, and the fourth is for mappable analog axis. So once you have everything set up, McLaren GT3 steering wheel is installed, drivers are up to date, and you made sure that your tuning menu settings are all in there, you can hop into Assetto Corsa Competizione, get into the options and controls. And the first thing before you remap anything with the buttons is you load the preset of the Elite wheelbase for the McLaren GT3. Now, if you want to keep your controls for like other steering wheels that you have used, please make sure that you save your button and control settings before you do this, because this resets then all the buttons to the factory settings. And the reason you want to do this is because you want to use the knobs on the steering wheel that you have set in the CONST mode like I showed you previously. And this makes sure that the two knobs for TCS and ABS work perfectly. And once you did that, you can then just readjust all the other buttons to your liking. Now, all in all, I can honestly say that this is an amazing steering wheel. The build quality, the materials, it's just, it's great. It's amazing. And I've been using it since I got it, which is now nearly 3 weeks. And I've done every race with it and getting used to it. And I really like that it's a great replica of a GT3 racing wheel. And you can really notice that. And I don't know if it's just my imagination, but it makes the experience so much more realistic in Assetto Corsa Competizione. And overall, I can just say I'm really happy with the racing wheel. And if you're still thinking if you should get it or not, I would actually recommend to, just get it and enjoy it. If you enjoyed the video, I would really much appreciate it if you can leave me some thumbs up just to help me support my efforts and keep growing the channel. Be sure to just, subscribe if you haven't done so far. Use the sub notification bell to get notifications whenever I post a new video or when I go live. There are a lot of activities coming up this year with some really exciting races and leagues and also community events, so be sure you don't miss out on them. I thank you so much for watching. Stay safe, take care, I see you soon.